Namaste and hi friends, it's Parvati here with Visionary Veda, bringing you your Vedic full moon report for January 28th, 2021. We are going to be having a beautiful full moon in the sidereal sign of Cancer in the nakshatra of Pushya Nakshatra. A few days after this full moon, Mercury is going to be going into retrograde. So let's go ahead and get started. Actually, before I get started, I would like to say thank you to all of my viewers who have been very supportive, who've been commenting, liking, and subscribing to my channel. If you haven't done so, please consider subscribing. It does help my videos to be circulated more. It does help for the information to get out more, and it also helps to encourage me to continue to make this content. So I hope you find the content helpful and valuable, and if so, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Okay, now let's get started. All right. So January 28th, 2021, we are going to be having a beautiful full moon in the sidereal sign of Cancer, in the nakshatra of Pushya. Now, Pushya Nakshatra is found in the middle of the sign Cancer and is usually denoted as the mother's bosom, right? Or nourishment, right? Because this is where the mother, or how the mother nourishes her child, is from her breasts, right? She feeds her child, she nourishes her child. It is also lorded by the planet Saturn, and its lording presiding deity is Brihaspati. Brihaspati is another name for the planet Jupiter as well. So we have Saturn and Jupiter and Moon involved in this full moon. And what's really interesting is that this full moon, of course, is opposing the Sun, which is sitting in Cancer, but also opposing Saturn and Jupiter, right? Two of the energies which lends to the nakshatra of Pushya. So it's going to be a very potent full moon because Saturn and Jupiter are with the Sun. They're also being combust as well. So we'll talk more about that. Saturn and Jupiter and the Sun are sitting in Shravana Nakshatra. Shravana Nakshatra is a very pious nakshatra and is lorded by the moon. Okay, so we have the moon in Saturn's nakshatra, Saturn in the moon's nakshatra. We also have Rahu in Taurus. Okay, now Rahu has also entered Rohini Nakshatra, which is also lorded by the moon. So we have three planets in Capricorn in Shravana, lorded by the moon. We have Rahu in Rohini, lorded by the moon, and we have the moon in its own sign of Cancer in Pushya Nakshatra, which is the nurturing nakshatra. Now, the moon signifies our mind, and is diametrically opposed to Saturn in its vibrational energy. And also in the zodiac, we have Saturn, which lords Capricorn, right, which also is indicated of the 10th house, which is the house of our outward ambitions, our outward achievements, and what we need to do step by step in order to achieve those ambitions. Hard work is the keystone, is a cornerstone of what Saturn represents in Capricorn. Now, Saturn takes, 30 years, right? Is very slow moving to come back to traverse the entire zodiac. So it's very slow, it's very methodical. And part of this is in Pushya because it's also responsible. The moon is completely opposed to it, completely different. The moon goes through the entire zodiac in 1 month. 30 years Saturn, 1 month the moon. The moon has phases. The moon waxes and wanes. It goes up and down. That's why it's the symbol of our minds, the moon, manas, because our minds are fickle in nature. Our minds are elevated and then our minds are down. So this is why the moon and Saturn have very, very opposing and different energies, okay? Now, it's very tied in with this full moon, and this full moon is really going to illuminate a lot. It might illuminate an internal struggle, it might illuminate an external struggle, which is just a reflection of our internal struggles, right? Rahu and Rohini Nakshatra, it indicates confusion to our minds, right? Knowing that we have these desires, we know that we're wanting to achieve, but we're confused as to how to even proceed to get there. With Saturn and Jupiter and Sun in Shravana Nakshatra. Shravana, the symbol is the ear. It is to listen. It also is the nakshatra of Lord Shiva, right? So it's listening to our internal self versus external authority. So that may be a theme that comes up during this full moon, especially with those 3 planets in Shravana in Capricorn in the external. Listening to our intuition with this moon in Cancer and Pushya. Where do we need to nurture more? Where do we need to be more responsible for our well-being, for our lives, right? This is all coming up in this full moon. So it's a beautiful full moon to examine where it is we are not taking responsibility for our lives. Examine where it is where we're not nurturing ourselves, right? For our growth, for our betterment, for our feelings of comfort and security. Where are we trading in our own power and giving authority the power to give us that said comfort and security? Now, that being said, right, the planets, if you've watched my videos, in the last video I spoke about the Kala Sarpa Yoga, right? Actually, it's a Kala Sarpa Dosha, because the dosha means it's a fault, where all the planets are on one side of Rahu and Ketu. And the moon moves through every month and breaks this yoga or this dosha, right? Right now, the moon is on the other side of the serpent. So it's giving us a bit of relief until it passes back. So we have a few more days in the month, maybe until the next new moon. So maybe at least another 10 days where we have this ability to see and to see how we are dealing with others, okay? How are we dealing with authorities? How are we dealing with communities? How are we dealing with other people? And is the way our mentality helping us or hindering us? And I say this right now, Sun is combusting Saturn and Jupiter. What does this mean? That means that Saturn and Jupiter are so close to the Sun that the Sun's rays, right, make the other 2 planets invisible. Now, when the planets are invisible, it's really hard for them to be able to lend their light, which is ultimately the Sun's light, but lend their energies to the world. So it becomes a very internal process. Internally, where are our ambitions? What is the righteous path? We can be a little bit egotistical, right, at this time, just thinking about ourselves, because the Sun is combusting these other planetary influences. So it could, it's a good full moon to take a look at where is it that we are being a bit self-centered? Where is it that we're being a bit self-referential when it comes to our work, our ambitions? Where is it that maybe we can nourish others as well and we're not nourishing them, right? Because it becomes all about the Sun. So this full moon will help to illuminate those different areas of our lives, okay? Now, even though the Sun and all the other planets are in a Kala Sarpa Yoga, the Sun, Jupiter, and Saturn are in what's called a Shubha Katri Yoga. So it's actually being supported Yeah, our leadership and our internal and external leadership is being supported because we've got Mercury on one side and we have Venus on the other side of the Sun, Jupiter, and Saturn. Okay, and this is getting a little bit advanced, but it's showing that these energies, even though they're combust, are supported. Okay, they are getting support to work through whatever blockages or whatever we can't see, because sometimes when it's too bright it's also difficult to see. All right, so I hope this helps. Just to touch on the Mercury retrograde, it is going to begin on January 30th. Mercury is also very closely tied to the moon. There's a whole story actually about Brihaspati and the moon, and how Mercury is actually the son of the moon. Now that makes sense. If the moon is the mind, right, Mercury is the intellect. So it can be seen as the sun or the offspring of the moon. Brihaspati also is considered one of the fathers of Mercury, which is Brihaspati, Jupiter, knowledge, and doing the right thing, right, by nurturing one's intellect, being responsible for one's mind, being responsible for one's mental chatter. So Mercury is going to go back from where it is now, which is in sidereal Aquarius. It's going to go back into the sidereal sign of Capricorn, and Venus is going to move into the sidereal sign of Capricorn, and then we're all going to be on, all the planets are going to be on one side of the Kalasarpa Yoga, and then Moon is going to join. So we're going to have a huge pile up in Capricorn. I'm going to talk about that in my next report. But for now, I just wanted to touch on the energies of this full moon. I hope it's been enlightening and illuminating for you. Please do comment on how you are feeling these energies. It's always good for astrologers such as myself to be able to see how these energies are manifesting in your lives. And if you would like some more clarity on how the planets are affecting you, feel free to contact me in the email below for a Vedic astrology session where we can look at your personal planetary chart and see how these planets are being activated for you at this time. Okay, so that's going to do it for me. Enjoy the life. Thank you again. Please like, share, and subscribe if you don't mind. You can also hit the bell icon, which will alert you of new videos. I appreciate your time. Wishing you all a fabulous full moon. Enjoy the life. Until next time, take care. All right, bye-bye.